And welcome into another episode of Tiger Territory, part of the Foul Territory Network, a Detroit Tigers podcast. I'm Kieran Steckley. With me, as always, is the man who almost got a long-lived rock tattoo, but then he thought better of it. He is Cody Stavenhagen. How you doing?
Doing good, Kieran. I'm here in Cleveland, still inside Progressive Field. I would recommend going to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame if you guys haven't been there before. It's a nice time. Not just rock and roll music represented there, really a nice representation of all things music, storytelling, writing. So I'm a fan of the place.
Well, it's funny you say that, Cody, because this weekend, in a lot of ways, was a representation of all things gritty Tigers, or as I put on
And it
X,
was.
inevitable Tigers. Because that's kind of what I thought watching this, play out the way that it did, because you have Friday, and that's just kind of a classic divisional battle. Tigers come out on top. You have the 1-1 game. We've had a couple of those, actually, now that I think about it. The 1-1 game where Casey Mize shoves and Torque goes yard, in a 1-0 win. And, so basically two games that could could go either way. You know what I mean? So hit here, blah, blah, blah. We all understand that. And then it kind of feels like Sunday is going to be like one of those, all right, well, you just don't necessarily have the magic. And then the magic just like came out of the hat in like so many ways that were hard to comprehend in the moment, hard to describe afterward, which is what we're going to do. But like you can play with us. I've said this before. Like if you're the Tigers, this is like the mentality I think that they have. It's like you can play with us, but but you can't really play with us. Like eventually we're gonna get you, and it's gonna be. It might be Riley Green. It might be Spencer Torkelson. It might be Tarik Skubal, or it's gonna be Trey Sweeney hitting the first home run of his major league career off a fastball, opposite field, against Cade Smith.
Against Cade Smith, one of the best
Like,
fastballs in the league. Like it
like
turned into the one more uncanny games I've ever seen. The only reason that situation existed was a 2-out, 2-strike wild pitch from Emmanuel Clase that actually barely trickled beyond the dirt behind home plate. Bo Naylor just didn't know where the ball was. McKinstry happened to be anticipating that exact situation. He was only in the game because he's pinch running for Torque. And um, keep in mind, Torque was on first base for a whole batter. Winsel Perez flied out, and they were watching from the dugout and saw, man, Clase's like his time's pretty slow from the stretch. He's going high leg kick. Let's put in Zach because that is going to either give us a chance to steal or he's going to have to start going slide step. Maybe that'll throw him off. Maybe he'll groove a pitch. Maybe we'll get lucky. Zach gets second, advances to third, scores, ties the game, whatever. I'll be honest, I didn't think the Tigers were going to win this game. I mean, their bats were just lifeless. The at bat quality was, I would argue, as poor as it has been really all season. Um, it just didn't have that feel. We knew even after a terrific outing from Skubal, the bullpen was a little taxed. You knew they were having to go Bailey Horn or Chase Lee, and it was like, okay. Once the Guardians got on the board, I was like, all right, maybe, this is just one of those days. They're not going to win. Well, I was wrong because, as we just laid out, McKinstry, Sweeney, Riley Green, once the floodgates open, gets his first hit against the Guardians all year, which is absurd. So a lot of absurd things happen in a very small amount of time. You look up and it's 7-2, and the Tigers are leaving Cleveland with a sweep, and everyone is happy.
well, I like to kind of, especially when we do these post game pods, like I like to kind of figure out, is this the greatest example of X, just kind of tongue in cheek, be reactionary? I don't know if there's ever been an extra inning like outing where three guys got off the schneid in some way, like Trey Sweeney, like with the home run, Matt Vierling. Let's not forget about Matt Vierling hitting one
Yeah.
down the left field line, and then Riley Green, as you mentioned, like three guys that in some sort of fashion were in slumps. You put Riley Green a little bit different than the other two, but all of a sudden,
Yeah.
the bats were live, and like the Class A thing, the McKinstry, like we're not going to, because so many other stuff has happened and happening, we're not going to talk about McKinstry enough. Like I'm just like, it's one of those things. I just know it, but it should be talked about with the way, I mean, a tremendous jump. One of the better jumps I think I've seen
Yeah.
off Class A there to make it really not close. Got to get the replay in there, but tremendous jump. And then, like I said, gets over to third, and then like very high baseball IQ is what got him there, got him on base, like, with the pinch run situation. And then very high baseball IQ by him is what allowed him to score. I like it. Like you said there, it wasn't like a wild pitch. It's just kind of like a scooting pitch. And he was aggressive enough, big extension lead. I mean, there wasn't even a play there. I'm not sure how many. He probably plays that the best, maybe Parker, out of anybody on the team, because mix of speed, instincts, and grit. So everything's hunky dory right now in Tigerland. Even though Tiger's Twitter was kind of melting down a little bit today, but that's okay. That's part of the experience. But like I said, you're in Cleveland, Cody, and things were. It wasn't necessarily all good vibes, you could say, after the Washington series. It pitching was ugly, and you had just inexplicable things happen given guys like history, or at least how they played this year. McKinstry errors, Canely. In the eighth inning there. So like, if there was going to be one of those, all right, here's our real kind of slump. Here it is. Here's a July slump here a little bit. It would be a series like this. And it kind of played out in a way that it could have been. But the Tigers are inevitable, so it didn't. But I am curious, like team, body language, messaging, all that stuff kind of coming into this series. Like, what was that like? And then, the consequential wins, including today, like clubhouse field vibes test wise.
Yeah, I mean the National Series was obviously pretty sloppy. The final game in particular. Um, and someone asked AJ Hinch, like, bro, do you have to call a meeting or something after that series? And in typical AJ fashion, he said, you know what I did after that game? I took a shower, I got on the plane, I came home, I went to sleep, I started studying the Guardians. So I don't think it
Any other day.
helps to have a huge division lead. Not let one series bleed into the other too much. But I do think he won't say. I think AJ was a little chippy day one here in Cleveland. I think the players were maybe a little tense. Like I think you could kind of feel just that they were coming off a tough series. Just that it's July. We're almost here to the All-Star break. I think some guys are feeling a little bit tired. Even though they left with the sweep, the bats were not there to speak of until the 10th inning here in this series, Kieran. So, like I said, I think the vibe certainly shifts with the emotion that came with Sunday's win. But I think there was a little, I don't even want to call it tension. I think I could just kind of sense some fatigue like at midsummer. Like, all right, everyone's kind of just trying to get themselves to the All-Star break. And I'll be curious to see if that persists at all in this homestand, where sweeping the Guardians, winning in thrilling fashion, will almost be like an emotional reset for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to talk some Tarik Skubal, because it's always a good idea to talk some Tarik Skubal. But first, a word from our sponsors.
AJ, we're in Vegas right now, and I have not had a lot of time to eat during the day. So
no.
What could we do?
I would love a Huel right now. Vanilla Huel would go down perfectly, because when I have to skip meals because I'm too busy doing what you do in Vegas, which is not eat, I need a quick replacement, and Huel is the perfect thing.
I'm a chocolate guy myself. It's got the chocolate milkshake vibes to it. If you miss a meal, Huel can be your answer. If you're looking for a big protein boost, Huel can be your answer. So go check it out. Our friends at Huel are part of today's sponsorship. They've got you covered, spelled Huel. That black edition is a complete meal to feel full, focused, and ready for your day. Little prep, basically no prep. Shake it, open it. Huel has sold over 500 million meals around the world, and now it's your turn to try it. So go to Huel.com/foul and get Huel today with the exclusive offer for the FT fam of 15% off for new customers if you use the code, you know it, FOUL, minimum $75 purchase. Get after it.
All right, coming back here. You always gotta like find new ways to talk about Tarik Skubal, and I think I found like another way to kind of contextualize just how great he is, Cody. So the line, I'm sure everybody's aware: 7 innings, 3 hits, 10 Ks, no walks. Has himself an emphatic finish as he does, as is tradition for a Tarik Skubal start. I wanted to bring this up. So in the 6th inning, so this was the inning in which Quan kind of jam job inside out right over the left side of the infield for a base hit. Before that inning, the FanDuel Sports broadcast showed the graphic, and it was like they gave the odds for Tarik Skubal to go 3 up, 3 down. Now, obviously, he didn't, as we just said with the quant hit. But the odds for Tarik Skubal to go 3 up, 3 down in the 6th inning, not the 2nd, not the 1st, not the 3rd, 4th, 5th. In the 6th inning, the odds for that were minus 155, which is like a heavy favorite outcome. If you, from a gambling perspective, there's no value there, right? So like that's the new way to look at how great Tarik Skubal was today is in general, is that in the 6th inning of the game against a team with, potent bats, like, Quan was the top three, and it was minus 155 for him to go 3 up, 3 down. That's how.
You are going 3rd time around the order, but I hate to say it, kind of makes sense. You're facing a lineup that is in a really bad way right now, and Tarik has a 0.81 whip. So math just kind of says guys don't get on base against him very often, especially the Cleveland Guardians don't have great odds of getting on base. Although we saw Quan 2 hits today.
Oh man, what a great ball player he is. I love hate to watch him. I'll tell you that. Same thing with Jose Ramirez. Hell, same thing with Cade Smith. But it's just one of those things. A lot of we've seen a lot of tide shifting from narratives of past, and this might be another one here, Cody, with the way the Tigers played Cleveland this weekend. But with Skubal, another kind of delaying the burying the lead a little bit. Skubal is your 4th All-Star for the Detroit Tigers. That was announced on Sunday. That's it, which was kind of anticipated if you started kind of doing the numbers a little bit based on who was what and needed to be in and blah, blah, blah. But he is a starter for the 2nd consecutive year. He is I love this. He's the first Tigers pitcher to be a back-to-back All-Star since, do you know it?
Gregory Soto,
baby. Tarik Skubal, Gregory Soto hold the same acclaim, at least one very specific accolade.
Especially now covering a team that isn't just given like the sympathy all-star to check the box. It is kind of ridiculous how those alter the construction of the roster. Like someone like Will Vest or Tommy Canley probably is not going to the all-star game, in part because there are only a few relief spots, and you have to have someone from the White Sox has to be represented, so they have a pitcher going to the All-Star game, and that's preventing better players from being in the All-Star game. It's kind of silly.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I get it from a marketing perspective. Everybody's represented, right. All that stuff. But yeah,
maybe just have a bigger roster, like make it a little bit bigger. And if some guys don't get in the All-Star game because they shouldn't really be All-Stars, well, that's okay. I guess that's not good for the market because they want people to watch, see your guy. All right, I don't know how to solve that problem, but it's just a little bit silly. And the fact Gregory Soto was a back-to-back All-Star exemplifies that.
Yeah, it's okay for it to be silly, even if we don't have a better system. Basically, I think is the point there. So it's almost like not even exciting to say Tarik Skubal is an All-Star. We obviously knew he was going to be an All-Star, but the big question now is, will he start the game? And I'll be honest, people kind of like the American League gets kind of, I don't want to say like shortchanged, but if you look at the wild card standings, it's not like all that impressive, right? But if you look at the starting pitchers that made the All-Star team, it's kind of like the other murderers row. You know what I mean? And, you got Fried in there, Crochet, obviously Skubal. It is highly impressive. So it's not Hunter Brown, shout out. So it's like you want to be able to say like it'd be a dumb decision to not start Skubal, and I probably would say that, but I can't say it's insulting if he didn't start, because again, these are some really high end starting pitchers in Major League Baseball that are representing the American League. I think Skubal has earned it with his play. Excuse me. With his play this season and coming off of Cy Young and being on one of the best teams, the best team in the American League. I think all those things say, as long as it lines up, teams are, they agree to this, agree to that, blah, blah, blah. As long as everything lines up, I don't think you can. I think it would be an injustice to Tarik Skubal to not start him if at the same time, like, it's not like there are not good candidates. I just want to give those guys respect because they're all great.
Yeah, I don't know. Am I biased for thinking Skubal has ascended to where he has the most marketing value and is simply the most electrifying pitcher to watch? Like Chris Bubich is great. He's not captivating an audience like he is Tarik Skubal. And I would argue the same even for a Max Fried. Maybe that's just because I watch every Skubal start. I don't know. But that's how I feel. I think this is the guy you want on that stage. I think Tarik Skubal should start the All-Star game. If I had to guess today, I don't think he's going to start the All-Star game. He has one big thing working against him. The manager of the All-Star game is Aaron Boone.
Right.
I would argue the second contender and maybe the biggest name in this crop of pitchers is Max Fried, who happens to pitch for the New York Yankees. If you're Aaron Boone, it's probably not worth pissing off your ace just to appease MLB or whoever,
Right.
and or just to appease Tarik Skubal and name him the starter. So unless Max Fried comes to Aaron Boone and is like, nah, man, I'm good, I think Max Fried might start the All-Star game, which is going to be a bummer for the Tigers fans. I think kind of for the game at large. I mean, this might be the chance to get that Skeen Skubal matchup, which would be pretty fun to watch, in my opinion. Even it's all one inning, so it doesn't really matter a ton. I think all these guys are scheduled to pitch on Saturday, and Hunter Brown's, I think, scheduled to pitch on Sunday, so he may not even participate. Otherwise, all these guys are going to be short rest. It's going to be about the same. We'll see what happens. Skubal said he would love to start the All-Star game. It's something he wants to do in his career. He also said he wouldn't be offended if he doesn't start the All-Star game. So I was hoping for the line. Who was it who said, like, if I ain't starting, I ain't departing? I think that would have been cool. I think that's what he should have said, but he took a classier route than that.
Also, I don't know, like, if this will actually play out or be a thing, but where did Max spend all of his career before going to the Yankees? And where is the All-Star game?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Yes. So there's like a, professional sports like homecoming element to that story that may or may not like work against Skubal as well there. So I don't know. We'll see. Before we kind of wrap up some All-Star stuff, you think is there any snubs in your mind, like McKinstry? Like I was kind of hoping he would get named today because it would be really cool to have like him have that moment with the steal and scoring the tying run, and then he gets named an All-Star, obviously for the first time in his career. But he's currently at 2.4 WAR. I kind of feel like he's going to get added. Bregman, Pena, Hurt, or coming back maybe around All-Star. It's real fuzzy. It wouldn't make sense for those guys to play, but congratulations for being named an All-Star. I kind of feel like he's got to be like first up. I mean, he could literally now we could say like play every position except for catcher. Now we can say it. Every single position except for catcher.
We'll see. There's some other guys, Junior Caminero, who certainly have compelling cases. I didn't expect McKinstry to be named an All-Star here on Sunday, but I do think he's on a very short list of guys who could be named as injury replacements. So something AJ Hinch said, like, I'm kind of telling Booney, like, managing the All-Star game gets a little crazy at the end. You need someone who you can just put in any spot. I got a guy for you. Maybe versatility in the All-Star game is the new thing, and maybe that is the best case for putting Zach McKinstry on the team.
Yeah, well, and you talk about exciting stuff. He's going to do something exciting, I bet you put him in there. So,
yeah, and we'll see pitcher-wise if Hunter Brown or someone were to bow out. There's probably other pitchers, but Vast Canely certainly in consideration. I think Casey Mize, if not for his IL stint, he might be an all-star pitcher, and maybe could still be in some consideration there. Obviously, Torque, Dingler have played themselves to right on the fringe of that. It's probably hard to see either of those guys getting in, but something Skubal said, like, hey, we have the best record in the American League. I think we should have more representation there. A little bit of a forceful quote from the ace, but he's sticking up for his team, and a team that do they deserve more respect? I don't know. I think people in baseball have a lot of respect, nationwide fans. I don't know. And if you just look at the numbers, they don't have, other than Skubal and Riley Green, bona fide, clear-cut all-stars, but they do obviously have several guys who have played at a very high level and deserve to be in this conversation.
All right, well, we are going to parlay that conversation into Casey Mize and his outing on Saturday. But first, a word from our sponsors. Nothing says summer like long days, clutch plays, and firing off a few bets on the game, all with DraftKings Sportsbook. Never bet on baseball before? It's easy. Pick a guy to go yard, hammer some live odds mid-game, or just ride with your squad and hope for the best. No spreadsheets, just vibes and dingers. Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code FOUL. It's code FOUL for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-78-9777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. New customers only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. All right, coming back here. I mean, so many things happening, especially at the end of that game. We should have really talked about Casey Mize more than 20 something minutes into this podcast, because Saturday, man, that was fun. That was fun. Casey Mize. I mean, his velocity was up. He was working the splitter when he needed to. I believe I have this correct. I wrote it down. His last pitch, he goes 100 plus. How many pitches was that? 100 plus pitches. 102. So the 102nd pitch of the game in the 7th inning, he throws 96-mile-an-hour fastball. And again, for Casey, it's always like the little things with Casey. That's been the Casey Mize experience. And that's like a little thing where I was like, man, like if I obviously we're leading up to that point, you can tell he's on it. But like at that point, I was like, he's on it. Like he it was like a little mini Skubal moment. He didn't let out a yell or whatever. But like 96 painted, 102nd pitch, I'll take that from Casey Mize. And right now, pecking order, best argument for your number 2?
It's Casey Mize right now. As of today, is Casey Mize. And I think that's the big question going forward, Kieran, like we have here on our display if you're watching on YouTube. How good is Casey Mize? Maybe we shouldn't overcomplicate this. It is July. Mize has made 15 starts, and he has a 2.63 ERA. That is pretty legit. He's already tied a career high in WAR at 1.3. Just the ERA alone, he is pitching like a number 2 starter. The question, I think, is he a bona fide frontline guy, or is he a mid-rotation type starter? And that's where you look at some of the underlying metrics, and it's still, he is outperforming kind of all of them. His FIP is 3.79. His xFIP is 4. I know people don't always want to hear those abbreviations. But the big thing to me, he does still have to miss more bats. His splitter goes as it's been at times this year. Only got one swing and miss against a Guardians lineup that's not very good. Now, he still had, results-wise, his best outing the whole season because his command was on point, and we shouldn't overlook that. He has the highest first pitch strike rate of his career. He has the highest overall strike rate of his career. That's what's led him to so much success. Command, especially fastball command. And I think even without swing and miss stuff, if he keeps commanding the fastball this well, he's going to be able to have a lot of success. But the thing to get that next tier, or to sustain a 2.63 ERA, you're probably going to have to average more than 7 strikeouts per 9 innings. You're probably going to have a whiff rate that's higher than the 41st percentile. His whiff and chase rates are up only slightly from last season. So one of the big flaws in Casey Mize's game has only kind of marginally improved. We've seen glimpses where it's been a lot better, where he has had that power splitter, in addition to really good command. I want to see a little more of that before, I guess, like we get too ahead of ourselves. But same time, 6 straight starts, 2 or fewer earned runs. He just keeps going out and pitching quality baseball. Maybe we shouldn't overanalyze it too much.
Yeah, I mean, there like Casey Mize is actually kind of, in my opinion, in a little bit of a he's in an interesting national situation. And what I mean by that is you just laid out like the numbers and like the earned runs over his last 6 starts. And all that's like great. And he's pitching on the best team in the American League, one of the best teams in baseball. He's a former 1-1, but he's certainly not a 1-1 in Tigers discussion. He's not a 1-1 on his own staff. Like it's obviously Skubal, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even to a certain extent, the infrastructure that the Tigers have for their pitching department. But at the same time, like he is on the path to get there. Like you'll get one of those all-star spots perhaps or whatever. And then people start being like, oh yeah, like Auburn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like wasn't he? Because injuries, multiple injuries, and then just the team not being so hot, and then him not being a face of that postseason run last year. Like it kind of swept under the rug a little bit, and this stretch has been like an announcement of sorts for Casey Mize. And like there's going like at this rate there is going to be like some sort of another like that was a nationally televised game. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That he was starting against a team that was in the ALCS last year. So like that kind of stuff like matters. And I think we're in the beginning of like a national recognition of Casey Mize.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
And I think honestly, I don't know Casey at all, but I think he's probably A-okay with like, just kind of going out, doing his thing, help, getting W's, not necessarily for his record, but like team W's, and seeing his pal Tarik Skubal get a lot of accolades. I think that's a pretty good life for Casey Mize. I think he's pretty happy.
He's happy with that, but I think he holds himself to as high of a standard as anyone in this clubhouse, Skubal included. Like I think Casey knows he can be even better, and wants to be even better. That's also a testament, just the fact he's pitching at this level, just everything he's been through, the work he had to put in. I think look himself in the mirror, got left off the postseason roster. I think he really had to self-evaluate this offseason and say, like, okay, how am I going to be the guy I'm supposed to be, the guy the Tigers drafted me to be, the guy I expect myself to be? He made some meaningful changes. He recommitted. Also, he didn't do anything drastic. He recommitted to the things that made him good, the splitter and fastball command, some little tweaks with the slider. Maybe rather than trying to overanalyze and be too fine and be too much of a perfectionist. Like I would argue maybe that's been, in addition to injuries, the biggest impediment with Mize's career so far is the fact he holds himself to such a high standard. So in a way, he self-evaluated, and he also gave himself maybe a little bit of grace. Now he's back doing the things that we've wanted to see him do all along, and that's a cool story.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the postseason element of that is probably the number one driving force. Is that like I was drafted I was 1-1 for this franchise. Yeah. We went to the postseason and kind of broke out of the rebuild, and I was there, but I wasn't there. And like, that's
pretty hard kicking the pants.
Yeah, and so that's got to be the number one. Like I am that guy that can help lead this team to whatever. So I think that's got to be the number one motivator for Casey. But keep doing like this, it's not going to be a really hard decision. Whether it's 2 or 3 or it's not going to be much discussion. He keeps this up. So good for Casey. All right, let's wrap up here. Part of the All-Star festivities will be Max Clark, Kevin McGonigal, and Jose Bocino taking part in the All-Star Futures game that was announced earlier. We didn't get a chance to talk about it, but the breaking news, I guess you would call it, on a Sunday night after a major league sweep in Cleveland, is that those three are going from West Michigan A to Erie double A, obviously. So it was always kind of Clark and McGonigal in this like past year, like Brasinho's kind of made this like, the duo into a trio. I'm just going to read their OPSs and be like, yeah, it makes sense together. Clark 857, McGonigal 1.067, Brasinho 1.024. Yeah, I think they had their time.
About time. What took so long? We know this front office is pretty conservative with prospects, and this is an example, man. I thought it would happen at the end of the high A first half, and the Tigers waited a couple extra weeks, I guess, just for good measure. McGonigal, he had been hurt, needed some more bats. Clark had a little mini rut that he pretty quickly came out of, and I guess Brasinho had dealt with a minor injury too. But yeah, these guys can all mash. The harder tests are always at the higher levels. Double A, triple A, I believe, is when you really start to learn not just their talent, but like what can these guys be as major league players. Everyone is fired up about McGonigal, and rightfully so. But it's like, oh, will he play in the big leagues this year? Pretty slim chance of that, but if he continues to have 1,000 OPS in double A, maybe so. I will just say it's a lot harder to have 1,000 OPS in double A than it is high A. That's all I'll just say. I'm excited to see these guys be challenged a little bit more, learn a little bit more about them, have them face nastier pitching on a day-to-day basis. Well-earned promotion for all three of them, and we will see what's ahead.
20 years old, Max Clark, Josue Brasinho, 20 years old as well, if I have that correctly. And I think McGonigal just turned 21. I could be wrong there, but all like,
Are you going to be copping the Max Clark Erie Moon Mammoths jersey, Kieran?
I mean, I'm pretty sure that's going to go hard. Like I might have to pivot a little bit and be like, I'll get the McGonigal one. Make it a little bit more hip. It can't be that mainstream. It can't be that mainstream. Let me get the McGonigal one. Or hell, you know what? Get me my boy Max Anderson. How about that?
If he's not in Toledo by the time the Moon Mammoths make their debut, we'll see.
So yeah, I mean, like you've said this a couple times, like this year, it's like old things coming up, Tigers series sweep, and then these guys get moved up to double A, and I like that you brought up like, yeah, probably not. Like I brought their age too, like focus on. It's like you're really gonna want the 20-year-old, the 21-year-old to rely on all that much in crucial situations, but these guys continued to show like this is a stacked organization. Like this is an organization that, like, if they were on a coast right now, would be talked about as like, oh, are they the new Dodgers? Like
maybe so.
I think that's what they would be talked about as. It was like, oh, well, they replicated this model, they do this, they took this guy from here, blah blah blah. It's hella impressive, and you combine that with the major league stuff. Because, Boston is one of those coast teams that has the major league talent and the talent in the system. And, even though they were able to do what the Tigers couldn't against Washington, the major league talent has fallen a little short this year for a variety of reasons. So good for those guys. It's going to be a lot of fun to see them challenge. I love double A is my favorite level to consume.
Same.
It just seems like a little bit more pure baseball, and you get the young guys at like a right time. And I'm down the road from the double A team and the Rangers, and I feel like I always see like the best baseball outside of major leagues in double A. So long list of guys that you're going to want to watch in Erie. So if you're close, I think you got to go, because who knows, these guys might be gone in a month too. Who knows?
I'll just say, in order to be the new Dodgers, you probably have to spend like the Dodgers. But in order to beat the Dodgers, do you have to spend like the Dodgers? Things keep on this track. Maybe we will find out.
That is the question. That is the question. All right, you can follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Cody Stavenhagen. I am at Kieran _Steckley. Pod page is at Tiger Territory _ YouTube, Instagram, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You guys know what to do. We appreciate all of you. So for Cody Stavenhagen, I'm Kieran Steckley. Everybody have a great week.